Welcome to a segment of Mind You and Food. This is Suzanne Toro, and this segment is brought to you by BeSimply. Let's dive in. Welcome to this segment of Mind You and Food. This is Suzanne Toro, and I want to thank you for joining us in this moment. We are at this beautiful transition in the North American and Northern Hemisphere. We're going from summer to late summer and then into the procession of fall. And in the Southern Hemisphere, we're still rocking winter and we'll be heading into spring. This sweet spot in Chinese medicine as we enter into late summer is really powerful because it's the earth element and it's the moment where we get to nourish the earth element. And it's really important. And I always wish it was longer, but for whatever reason, it only got one lunar cycle in Chinese medicine. You could do it longer. The reason being, and if you couple Chinese medicine and Ayurveda together, in the fall in from Ayurvedic science, that is when Vata, the dosha of Vata, can get out of balance. And I will state here, all doshas exist in all of us, and they can all be in balance or out of balance. So that's really important. And I'll do a full segment on that because people in the West get confused. I feel they want to label themselves as one thing or another, but you're all things. Where in Chinese medicine, it accounts for all the elements, as does Ayurveda. However, you're nourishing all the elements year round. And so the imbalance as diagnosed or called out in Chinese medicine has to do with the organs, the emotions, psychospiritual, the season. And if we proactively in both sciences nourish our system year round, we will retain well-being. And it doesn't have to be super complex. It can be very intuitive. And the base place that we can start out with is by eating seasonally, because Mother Nature kind of takes the work out of it for us, meaning that what is growing in and around you is meant to be consumed during the season. Now, the reason this late summer to fall season is so powerful is that the earth energy is what grounds us. And the number one thing when I ask people how they want to feel or where they want to point their compass for the day or in the moment that I'm working with them is calm. And so the emotion that governs this sweet spot, late summer, is worry, stomach and spleen. And most people, whether they're working on bringing in balance the relationship with food or they're bringing in balance their gut health, which is a hot topic, this is governed here where our stomach holds worry. And so when we have these emotions and we're in constant state of worry, that impedes our ability to digest. It actually informs our gut, informs our brain and our heart. And we start to create this emotion of worry, anxiety, doubt, which can create a spin and keep us from being in forward motion, because that gut, if you look at the energy centers, the chakra system, the gut is what is our will, our destiny, our forward motion. If we're consumed, just like if we have too many thoughts in our head, if we're consumed with worry, we're impeding ourselves, we're stopping ourselves. So during this segment, we're going to talk a little bit about how to retain that calm on a day-to-day basis. In addition, the one governing principle for all of you, no matter what time of year is, if you're feeling anxious, if you feel that electromagnetic field rise up in your system, go outside, sit on the earth, sit by a tree. The trees are designed to transmute energy, and the earth will balance your system back to its natural state. If we were a society that spent more time outside, we would be in that cadence with nature. And this happens if you do a good day of work, if you have a farm or garden or outdoor job, you're going to feel a little different. You feel a good tired at the end of the day because you've been in communion with nature. you've been working your system, and then you get a good rest in. And that's the other component when people are feeling a lot of anxiety, worry, and doubt. Their rest isn't as deep because they have wound up their mind and their entire system. And then even in their dream time, their mind is working out. And that's what your dream time is. It's working out your subconscious and your conscious mind. And that's a whole other segment. So other core principle for calming the system and nourishing the system at this time of year is to eat grounding foods that will actually bring you closer to the earth. So if you just think of it really simply and imagine if you're going out in the garden, if you pull anything out of the garden, meaning that it's growing below the earth, the ground level, those are going to be grounding foods. So I always encourage people that think a lot, are overthinkers, that they eat grounding food. And this is why people want comfort food. And as we go into the fall season, people tend to, as it gets cooler out, they want that warm, comforting food, which can take shape in the form of soups. That's really, soup and bread is really helpful in these times of this time of year. You can get your herbs, your spices, and still not like impede the system too deeply with maybe dairy and those kinds of things, or foods that are too oily that might aggravate the system. It just depends on the constitution. So tip number one, I won't call it a rule. Who likes rules? Tip number one, eat grounding foods, especially during this time of year, things that grow below the earth. A lot of the harvests are falling away from the summer, late season. So you might have carrots coming up, potatoes coming up. If you live in a region that potatoes grow, they grow on a 55-day cycle. It's a good time to start planting them. Sweet potatoes are great for the gut. And so one quick evaluation that you can do just to evaluate, do you have chronic stress that you know of, just by doing a self-evaluation in this moment? And so do you have anxiety on a daily basis? Do you have depression? Do you have emotions that are dysregulated, meaning you go through a wide variety of emotions on a daily basis, and that might feel like a dragon ride where they go one way and then another. How is your circulation? This is another thing. When people are thinking a lot or worrying a lot, they tend to have cold extremities. In addition, if you have trouble focusing, as mentioned, the poor digestion is because the energy is being focused on these other matters of worry, emotions, and it starts to cinch things up. Similar, this is why when people travel, a lot of times they can feel, they'll stop having bowel movements because they get congested. They might be worried about travel. They might feel uneasy and not knowing. So simple ways like food, planning for success with food, planning yourself for success on a daily basis, is to have a routine. And what I find with my clients that tend to have busy minds or have a lot of uncertainty, maybe it's internal or externally imposed, that the routine helps. So when we do a cleanse, when I create a custom cleanse for people, we have a very specific routine. And this is an Ayurvedic principle with a little twist here and there, depending on the individual. And that is so powerful because that consistency lets you and your body, your entire system, know what's going to happen over a course of a day. So if inspired, you can think about how you could bring a routine to your day. I always use the analogy, a baby, a puppy, any young child prefers a routine, and most adults prefer a routine. And from a Zen approach, you don't have to look at it as boring. It's just like, how can you have a fresh pair of eyes or show up with a beginner's mind and be like, wow, how can I meet this meal the same meal I had last week or yesterday or the day before with excitement, especially if you're eating foods that you like. So that's another thing on how to calm your worry and your nerves, is by bringing pleasure into your system so that you too can enjoy and bring yourself more into the food, the present moment, versus being someplace else. So I'm going to rattle off a couple foods that help calm nerves, the mind, which is really important. And some of these are actually really calming to the digestive tract too. So one, chamomile tea is a great thing. I'll give you a recipe real quick right now on the fly for that. Is in the evenings, if you do chamomile tea, nut or a seed milk that you like. If you can tolerate some dairy, you can have raw, organic, grass-fed milk. Again, in Ayurveda, there is some dairy, so a little different than what we're taught here in the West. So it's important to listen to your body. But you could choose your milk. You warm that up. You steep your tea in there. Then you add a little bit of cinnamon, a little pinch, if you have it, fresh nutmeg, or a pinch of it. You're going to add cardamom, and then add a little maple syrup. And from there, you're going to mix it all up and enjoy it. And you can sweeten it to the level that you like. Chamomile is a pretty neutral tea, so the flavors are going to come from that cinnamon, the nutmeg, the cardamom, and the maple syrup. That will take you into bedtime. You could do it a little bit earlier, but calm you. If you're still feeling before you do this nighttime tea, you can also get a tincture or get the actual nutrients, but you could do a kava, a couple, like 3 to 5 drops of kava tincture, or ashwaganda, 3 to 5 drops. This will help you with your sleep. Alternatively, you could get GABA. It's a tincture that you can use, and you can have some drops there that will calm the system. So a great way just to get into a nighttime routine where you give yourself that calming tea as you enter into your sleep time. Now, let's talk about another way to give yourself some foods, or a variety of foods that can help calm anxiety. One is for your brain health is your omegas. We talked a little bit about that last week. Sardines will help your brain produce serotonin and dopamine. So that is a great thing to introduce. If you're a vegan and don't prefer that, there are other ways to get that, which I'll put a list of some alternatives when I write this all up for you. Green tea has that GABA in it that I just mentioned. And if you use hand-rolled living tea, I'll give a shout out to Living Tea. He's a dear Dharma brother, friend of mine, Colin, and the Global Tea Hut. Those are ways to get some good living tea. You'll want to make sure you test the green tea. Again, this would be better in the morning because it can create some energy. I really recommend staying away from tea bags because that actually causes me to have jitters more so than a cup of coffee. But the hand-rolled tea, green tea, is beautiful. So I'll put Colin's links for Living Tea below. You can purchase there. In the late summer, we want to start cooling the system. You've had a lot of heat all summer, potentially, where you are. So oats are one beautiful thing, and this is a typical dish that's included in the fall to late summer cleanse, is overnight oats. And there's lots of fun recipes for that. You take your seasonal fruit, you put your oats, you put milk or water in there that you like. It could be nut, seed, and I am champion for seeds, and I will do a whole series on that. And cinnamon, your flavors that you like, that you want. Then you leave it in your fridge overnight or stovetop covered, depending how warm your place, your dwelling is that you're living in your home. You'll just need to decide. And the reason for that, if it's really hot, you'll want to put that in the fridge so it doesn't like grow anything. You don't have a science experiment by the morning. So there you have it so far. You have your chamomile tea drink to reduce anxiety, sardines to help balance your neurotransmitters, green tea, which is nice and calming. And you can have fun with green tea too. You could blend it all up and make it into a drink that has some of the components I mentioned with the chamomile. You could even blend those if you want it in the afternoon, like a little pick-me-up, but calming agent at the same time. So I'll put both of those recipes for you below. Also, eggs are super helpful. They can help regulate your blood sugar. They give you your B vitamins. They give you your vitamin D. It's in the yolk. And again, eggs have gotten a bad rap through the world of heart medicine. However, they're really helpful to repair a lot of things in your brain and in your heart and your blood sugar. So if you like eggs and they are agreeable to your system, consider them. And you might space them out. You know, too much of one thing isn't always beneficial on day to day. If you were doing a specific diet for a series of time, that's different. So overall, then the eggs will also regulate your mood and your cognition. Cashews, which are a fruit, this helps with your reduced anxiety, nerve and muscle relaxation, and helps with any irritability. So this is also a nice handy staple to have in the kitchen because you can make cashew butter pretty easy in your blender. You can also use this for smoothies. So you could take a handful if you wanted to have a fruit smoothie in the morning, cashews, your fruit, seasonal fruit that you like. We're still getting stone fruit here on the West Coast, so you could decide on that. You can add some coconut in there, and that's a great way to start the day by utilize those. Bananas, another great one to help with muscles, because what happens when you're anxious, you're constantly tightening up your body. You won't notice where, but you'll maybe have it in your shoulders, your legs. Even when I'm doing a class, when I have people roll over on their side, I have them feeling, because we carry a lot of tension on the side of our body because we're sitting a lot of the time. So there's a natural compression. So if you roll it out from side to side, that's super helpful too. So a couple more things that help with your, and we've talked about it, is kefir in far as probiotic for gut health. You can have a prebiotic and probiotic. I'll link that episode below. As mentioned, if our liver, gut, and brain are happy, our system's going to be running. So this is helpful this time of year. The other thing, grass-fed beef, if you do not eat beef, there are other ways to get your bees inside of you. I'll put some alternatives below, but this helps completely with your cognition, your mood, and your vascular system. And so blood flow to the brain, we want to keep that moving. There are a lot of great ones available. I will link the episode before because I gave a couple shout outs to farms that are humanely run. And the other thing, there's no shame around needing or wanting to consume the food that is calling to you. This is super important. Your body knows what it needs. And right now in the food world, oftentimes there's shaming around this. Understand that we live in a world system that has a life cycle to it. And if we live in harmony with it, we don't overtake, but it allows the whole system to flow in a really dynamic way. And then there's natural things that are available to us. Obviously, there's more green on this planet, so that suggests to us that that can be a large staple food for most all of us if we so to choose. However, there are nutrients in these things. And what I've also found out, I'll give a shout out on the beef topic, is that people that tend to have imbalance in their mind, they might have a mental diagnosed pathology, that beef really helps. So you might do bone broth if you don't want to eat the actual meat. Or there's also additional nootropics, which we're going to close out with, that can help that issue, getting your bees in. Next up, anti-inflammatory, which helps with gut and digestion, is turmeric. Those tea drinks that I mentioned, you can put turmeric in there. You can add turmeric. It's very simple spice, so you can add it to everything. You can get it fresh. You can even grate it and put it in your food, your salads, in those drinks that I mentioned, or you can get the fresh organic spices, or there are a lot of supplements, but I would go fresh to spice, and then potentially, if you can't find those two things, you could take a supplement of turmeric, but it's really easy to add into a lot of stuff. And if you're a mom out there and want to make your kids yellow icing, use turmeric. I did it when my kids were young. It makes a bright yellow cake, and it's really easy. The nice thing about turmeric is it does reduce inflammation. The curcumin boosts serotonin and dopamine in your brain, leading to a happier mood. Also, that helps reduce anxiety is dark chocolate. So that is helpful for blood flow and brain. Again, less is more. So I always share that, there's so many food crafts out there now. So you can get artisan bread, you can get artisan chocolate, you can get artisan all types of foods, even that I'm mentioning. And your system's going to respond better because it's handmade. It's made with love and attention. So think of it that way. The other component that's helpful for reducing stress and building immunity, this is the thing that we really want to do in this transitional gateway, is reduce our stress, ground from all the activity and the heat, and additional cooling from the summer. And we want to prepare as we go into the cooler months, because these are times that historically can result in a cold or flu, those kinds of things. If we're proactive, you'll see less and less of that. So bell peppers are still blooming from summer crops. So that's another aspect that can help you. And those are fun. I'm going to shout out a recipe here. So if you have a bell pepper, you can take that and slice off the top, clear out the inside. Then you take it and you can blend up what you want. So you can either use like a tempeh if you want this to be vegan, or you could use a ground beef or a turkey, and you're going to blend that all up, and you're going to add in bell pepper, onion, garlic, parsley, oregano. Just you put in everything that you love. You can even put in olives, I'm thinking of right now. I'll put a recipe that you can check in below. You're going to blend that up almost like a meatball. And then I would actually add some tomato in there, some paste or sauce. Fill those up. You're going to put them in the oven. You're going to roast them. The meat will cook. You'll put a little oil in the pan. And off the top of my head, because I'm literally doing these all by the fly, I'm going to say 350 for about 30 to 40 minutes. Maybe 350. It feels good for 30 or 40 minutes. And you'll just check. You'll see that everything's getting cooked. You can also add a little bit of panko flakes, Japanese breadcrumbs, or breadcrumbs in there, just to keep it all together. Like I said, almost like a little mini stuffed pepper, but meatloaf style or tempeh style, depending what you like. The tempeh, you're just going to have to work that a little extra before you blend it all in a bowl. You have to break it apart and then blend it. The other few things that are really helpful is kale, organ meat. If you eat that, if you ever watch anyone in like Alaska, they don't have a lot of resources in the winter, so they don't let anything go to waste. So when people might freak out about organ meats, but these have revitalization properties. But again, it's a little. You have to always look at the proportions of what nature provides. So there's a big trend right now of people eating organ meat, and I would just say be mindful that there isn't a lot of like bull testicles around, to proportionally only eat your lion's share, because you only would need that much. So you'll see, I saw a couple in Alaska living, and they saved every part of their salmon that they ate, and one other animal that they were eating. When you only have ice and fish or maybe some wild animals, that's what happens. So just to remember to keep it, it's hard this day and age because we're not farmers like we were intended to be. The other two that are great, and all the veggie lovers out there will like this, is kale and blueberries. Those are really helpful to keep the nerves down and calming, and also help with your antioxidants and prevent any damage to the brain. So really what's happening with this list is that you're calming not only the brain, but the gut, because like the heart will inform the brain and the gut will inform the brain. So these are those interesting twists and turns that happen without us even knowing. So what I recommend as we close out is try to notice when your electromagnetic field, your body starts to uptick. You'll notice like you'll have a physiological response. You might start to feel anxious, heat rise in the body, and then use the breath and go outside to bring that affect down. And then if you notice on a daily basis that you are feeling anxious, then I welcome you to try some of these foods. I welcome you to have a consistent routine on a daily basis. And then the last thing is I would welcome you to omit processed foods, sugary foods, caffeine, fried foods, and any really oils that are like deeply hydrogenated or processed, meaning that maybe it's not even oil, like completely. So the more clean and pure food that you eat, the better off you'll be. And definitely stay away from quote unquote fast food. There's a lot of, quick food, I would call it, that you can get food that's handcrafted in the restaurant, but it has the feeling of fast food. Here in California, we're blessed that way because there's a lot of Hispanic Mexican food that is made quick but fresh, and so you can get a really good wholesome meal that way, meeting all your flavors and your tastes. So and then the final note we'll shout out with a mocktail is that alcohol is going to not be your friend if you're super anxious. And what I've noticed in my clientele is that what happens is if the anxiety is really high, they will drink alcohol to feel like neutral. So they're not even aware of how much alcohol. So that can be problematic. We're not really meant to drink large quantities if you abide in alcohol. And then it has a big dump, like you go up and then neutral and then down, and then you have a recovery with the sugar imbalance. Plus, it's a neurotoxin, so it does impact your brain in large quantities. So what you can do is, one, dial in your daily menu. And if you want help with that, reach out to me at s@suzannetoro.com. Number two is that when you go out, set yourself up for success. Now there's a few drinks on the market. I'm remembering Kin. There's one other that I'm forgetting. But what you can do for a mocktail is you can take your favorite soda water, you can take your favorite fruit juice, and you can take kava and ashwagandha drops. And you can have those just 3 to 5 drops of each and go out and have a good time. Add some fresh mint, for this time of year, fresh mint. Cucumbers are still popping, and then even some fun fresh fruit like blueberries would be good. They'll calm you down. Some pineapple, depending on the juice you choose. I'm going to choose in this moment, if I do, bubbly water, coconut, pineapple, cucumber, mint, blueberries, and some pineapple chunks. It's going to be a yummy drink for you. So I want to thank you for being here in this moment. If you have any questions, comments, or feedbacks, please send them my way. I didn't get to nootropics. We'll talk about those next week. I went over today, and that's the blessing of producing your own shows. You can do that. All right. Until next time, we're going to sign out with Kadri Scott. She has a new album coming up, and we're going to exit out with Be Aware. And you have a beautiful day. Until next time, this is Suzanne Toro signing out with a full heart, a soft gaze, a deep bow, and a namaste. Be simply. Once again, I want to thank you for tuning in to Mind You and Food. This segment was brought to you by BeSimply, and this is Suzanne Toro. I want to welcome you to stay a little bit longer and connect with the rhythms and the music provided by Kadri Scott and Dante Marino. Until next time, this is Suzanne signing out with a full heart, a bright smile, a deep bow, and a namaste. Be simply.
With the bliss of ignorance, you confine yourself.